Welcome to our class Neet Biology, and today let us discuss the patterns of Mendelian disorders. So before going into the patterns of inheritance, let us go into the general terminology of genetics, that is homozygous and heterozygous. Homozygous is in an organism, if the gene have the same alleles, then we can call it as a homozygous. Heterozygous means if an organism on a gene, if it carries the two different alleles, then that is called as heterozygous. Genetic diseases are classified into three types. They are monogenic or Mendelian disorders, chromosomal disorders, as well as polygenic disorders. Mendelian disorders are being caused due to the mutation in a single gene. Chromosomal aberrations are being caused due to the mutation in chromosomes. Polygenic diseases are being caused due to the mutation in several genes. Coming to Mendelian disorders, in Mendelian disorders, four patterns of inheritance are being observed. And here, they are the autosomal recessive, autosomal dominant, X-linked recessive and X-linked dominant diseases. And coming to autosomal recessive diseases, in the recessive disease, wherever if we say the recessive, affected offspring may have the normal parents. Okay, suppose if you assume like this is the mother and this is the father. Okay, both of them are normal. Okay, and here in the next generation, one offspring is completely affected whereas the other one is normal. Okay, if there is a recessive means, the parents are in a recessive disease, there is skipping of generation. For an affected offspring, the parents are normal, but they may be the carriers. If one allele is mutated, that is not sufficient to show its effect. That's why we are calling it as recessive disease. Autosomal recessive means there is a mutation on the autosomes, irrespective of the sex chromosomes. So here, if there is mutation on the autosomes, equally both male and female are affected. We cannot see that only one of the sex is affected, the other is not affected. We cannot see. Okay, as this is the mutation in autosomes, both the sexes are equally affected. Recessive means there will be a normal parents but the offspring is affected. Why they are normal means because they are the carriers. They are having one mutant allele. Okay, so here this is the mutant one. Okay, if the offspring is inheriting this mutant, then this offspring will be affected. Okay, it may be the male or it may be the female. If both of them are inherited, then that person will be affected. Here the two are carriers and one is unaffected who have been inherited the normal genes. Okay, example for this autosomal recessive diseases are sickle cell anemia and phenylketonuria. In this autosomal recessive, the main thing which you have to remember is for the affected child, they may have the normal parents, but that parents are carrier. For an offspring to be affected, the parents, both the parents should be the carriers. Okay. The next is autosomal dominant diseases. If we see dominant, one single mutant allele is sufficient to show its effect. So here if you see in the father, one is mutated. Okay, only one allele is mutated, the other is normal, and in the female, both are normal. And this mutant, whoever inheriting this mutant one, that particular person, individual will be affected. So, one mutant allele is sufficient to show its effect. Then that we can call it as dominant. What type of dominant disease it is means it is autosomal dominant. It is present on the autosomes. If they are present on the autosomes, both the sexes are equally affected. So here randomly whoever is inheriting, it may be the male or it may be the female. Both of them are affected. Okay, so here for the offspring to be affected, either of the parents should be affected. Any one of them should be affected for an affected offspring. Whereas in recessive, what we discussed means, for though the child is affected, the parents are normal. But here in dominant disease, there should be no skipping of generation. In each and every generation, there will be affected individuals. Next is X-linked recessive disease. Recessive means, I told you, single mutant allele is not sufficient to show its effect. And here they are causing mutation on the X chromosomes. So we are calling it as X-linked recessive disease. Now in this disease, who is most affected means the male are more often affected than that of female. The reason for that is, here, the male child inherit X chromosome from mother, Y chromosome is inherited from the father. Whereas the daughter inherit one X chromosome from the mother and the other X chromosome from the father. If suppose the father is having the mutant one, so that single mutant one is not sufficient to show its effect in case of recessive disease. So here the daughters are rarely affected, but here the sons are mostly affected because they inherit the only single X chromosome. If that is normal, then the male child is normal. If this X chromosome is mutated, then that male child is going to be suffering by a disease. Okay, so here this is more prevalent in the male when compared to that of female. For a daughter to be affected, either of the parents, that is the mother, both the parents should be a carriers or they should be affected. Then only we can see that the daughter is affected. Otherwise, the daughters are not affected. Examples for that is hemophilia as well as color blindness. Now if you see in the father, he is having the X chromosome which is mutated. So this X chromosome will be inherited only to the daughters because daughter receive one X from the mother, other X from the father. But sons inherit only Y chromosome from father. Okay, so there is no transfer of X-linked diseases from father to son. There will be only Y-linked diseases. So here if you see, if this mutant is being transferred to the girl child, both of them, only one is affected whereas the other one is normal. So single allele is not sufficient to show its effect in recessive disease, then this girl will be normal but she is a carrier. Okay, both the girl childs are carriers but both of them are normal. They are carriers of a mutant gene. And next, coming to the X-linked dominant disease. Dominant means, I told you, single mutant allele is sufficient to show its effect. Okay, now here, if this mutation is being caused on the X chromosome. So in dominant disease, always there is no skipping of the generation. If the child is affected means compulsorily either of the parents should be affected. So here it is seen equally both in male as well as in female. If they are inheriting the mutant from either from the mother or the father, the disease is being seen. Example for this is the rickets, follicular hypertrichosis, inconscientia pigmenti. All these are the examples of X-linked dominant diseases. Now if you see here, the father is carrying the affected gene. So here the father is transferring this X chromosome to the daughter. Okay, so when the daughter is being inheriting this mutant one, then she will be affected. Okay, the sons inherit only the Y chromosome, so they are not affected because the mother is normal. Okay, now coming to the other case, let us see here the mother is affected. Okay, she is having the mutant one and the father is having the normal X chromosome. So in this case, the male child are normal. Here you can see one of the male child is normal because he has inherited the normal gene from the mother and the other male child have been inherited this mutant one from the mother. Okay, this normal is inherited to this son. Okay, this mutant is being inherited to the other person. So whoever male child is inheriting this mutant X chromosome will be affected by this X-linked dominant disease. So if father is affected in dominant disease, if father is affected, then the girls are affected. In the dominant X-linked dominant disease, if mother is affected, then the sons are affected. Okay, now here again if you see, I told you one of the daughter will always, the daughter inherit one X chromosome from mother and other X chromosome from the father. Okay, now due to this X chromosome, the son is affected. Now, in the same way, one of the daughter also inherit this mutant one. So here the daughter is also affected. Okay, in dominant disease, if mother is affected, 50% of the sons and 50% of the daughters are affected. Okay, if mother is affected, both sons and daughters are affected. If father is affected in X-linked dominant diseases, only daughters are affected. So we can say this disease is common in both male as well as female. If you like the video, share and subscribe. Press the bell icon to receive further notifications.